So, thank you very much for our final session. The first part of this final session is on the joint harvesting. So I just missed one last moderator. I'm looking for Catherine. Catherine, she's here? Not yet? She will arrive, okay, don't worry. So we have all our moderators over here. So I will call you one by one. You will stand up, turn, address the attendants, and yeah, we will just make a little bit of theater here. Okay, so we will invite the different moderator and present a short flashlight of some highlight of your respective session. Of course, it doesn't pay justice to all of the people and the length of the presentation and the quality and whatever, but all the presentation will be available online after the conference, will be most probably on the website of the For Permit initiative. Okay, so Wolfgang, can you start, please? We need a mic, sorry.
I take.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. I had to moderate the session on policies and market-based instruments, and we had 7 presentations, very interesting presentations, mainly different policies and strategies from different countries of all around the world, from Australia, European countries, Uruguay, and so on. And main messages coming out of it, first of all, you need a plan. Most of the countries have national soil action plans, strategies, policy plans, these kind of things. Maybe not for the farmer, but for the policy makers. Main focus should be the farmer, that's clear. And if you look at policies, there was only one sentence at the end saying, keep it simple, be effective, and be attractive. Attractive means good money for the farmer. The farmer still has to have income and less bureaucracy. That's it.
Thank you, Wolfgang.
Thank you.
So, the next moderator, Linda Homan, on the Living Labs.
Thank you. Thank you. In our session, living labs from different countries and continents were presented. Europe, North and South America. Living labs thrive on the involvement of practitioners. Our take-home messages from the Living Labs sessions are: fortunately, there are no global issues in motivating farmers to participate in such projects. They are open-minded and eager to collaborate with researchers. It also became clear that farmers want to be directly involved in the research process and to see their own data. This increases transparency and, in turn, builds trust in the work of scientists. It also serves to motivate the farmers. However, farmers are also business people who must manage their resources carefully and can only implement measures if they are compensated for them. The current economic system, for example the EU funding, provides little incentive for measures that are important for building up soil organic matter. Therefore, local policymakers need to be involved. However, they are often not sufficiently informed. This is where scientists are needed. For example, to provide information through one-pagers, maximum 2 pages, that clearly communicate why a proposed measure is not only beneficial for the local economy, but also for the region as a whole. Only then should soil or soil protection be mentioned. It can also help to use related topics to spark political interest in soil, for example, by showing that soil protection can reduce the risk of flooding and erosion. A challenge is that science often takes several years to deliver answers, whereas political decision makers need quick information and solutions in their daily work. Furthermore, it is important to improve the global image of farmers. They are not the bad guys. They want to preserve their soil, as it is their livelihood. Farmers want to share practical experience and receive clear action guidelines. It is crucial to ask farmers questions. They know best what is happening with their soil.
Thank you. You say 1 page, 2 page max, but I said one sentence. It was a little bit longer. Okay. Next one is Professor Claudia Kahneman. This is a biochar and the circular economy.
Yes, thanks. So we heard first of the state of the art of biochar research, and then in general, while combining what we heard with circular economy, it became clear that you have the largest benefits also economically if you have a cascading use, be it biochar, be it biogas, whatever, in nutrient cycling to help farmers have an economic sustainability. We saw that there is a potential for biochar to generate additional soil organic carbon buildup in the scientific literature, but also in one of the talks we've heard. We heard to talk about combining rock powder enhanced weathering and biochar as CDR techniques, and there was a question if there are synergies so that you get more CDR by combining both, which was not the case, but you get mostly the effects from biochar on either yield or reduced nitrate leaching and N2O emissions. Then we learned that mostly the implementation hurdle is that biochar is still too expensive, like photovoltaic was 20 years ago, and that nobody is paying for the positive environmental effects, which is a thing that needs to be overcome. And one of the talks showed a method to break up the subsoil if it gets compacted, to have biochar trickle down there. And by the roots growing down, you got more additional soil organic carbon in that soil profile, besides just adding the biochar. So that's maybe a way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, next we have Samuel Fournier on the MRV.
Yes, so I had the chance to moderate the MRV panel for SoilCarbon. So we had 6 amazing panelists showcasing different solutions. So we've talked about different solutions, a realm of possibilities when it comes to MRV for SoilCarbon. So we talked about modeling, we've talked about remote sensing, we've talked about proximal sensing, both from a research and a practical perspective. And I guess the 2 takeaway message are probably the first one, there's no one-size-fits-all solution out there. So there's a realm of possibilities, but the best way to achieve common success is by an hybrid stack of different technologies working together and addressing some of the shortfalls of the others. And the last one is probably how we need to manage the uncertainty. So uncertainty is the backbone of what we're doing specifically for VCM markets and even regulated markets. So how do we address uncertainty? How do we manage uncertainty? How do we calculate uncertainty, both from a new technology, but also from the, call this legacy providers such as chemical labs? We need to better address that. Thank you.
Very synthetic. Thank you very much. So, we keep going with Stephen With on agroforestry.
Yeah, so in the agroforestry session, we had 5 inspiring talks from people with different backgrounds, and our 3 key takeaway messages are that long-term networks and support are needed and are key for the establishment and maintenance of agroforestry systems. Also, that reducing the complexity of definitions and the terminology is needed to give a clear idea of what agroforestry actually is worldwide. And finally, that the benefits of agroforestry beyond soil organic carbon sequestration are backed by scientific evidence and should be considered in funding instruments more prominently.
Thank you very much. We continue with Deborah Bossio on the carbon farming session.
Great, yeah. I had the opportunity to Oh, hi. Okay. So yeah, I moderated the carbon farming session, which was just before this, so I didn't have time to write anything down. We had 4 speakers, and in the end, what happened was we had 2 speakers who really talked about practical implementation of carbon farming through protocols and schemes. So we had a speaker from Vera who talked to us about what they're doing on developing new protocols and the advancements and the challenges they've had. And then we also had a speaker from the EU talking about what I thought was really exciting was a new being already rolled out voluntary, organized voluntary market at the EU level, which is seen as sort of a way to get towards the regulatory markets, but to work it out in the meantime. So that's already happening. So very optimistic things. And then we had 2 other talks that were a lot more sobering. One giving us some really good scientific background on what is this topic of impermanence, of permanence. What does it really mean if it's not permanent, this carbon, in terms of climate forcing, which was quite a wake-up call for a lot of us, I think. And then also around MRV and the difficulty of actually reducing uncertainties and things there. So we actually went kind of in a dive towards, oh my God, why are we even trying to do this when it's so difficult? And then we pulled it back from the brink, thanks to the interventions of an audience member who helped us to realize that we can still go forward. We have time to move forward with things we know that work while we're still working on some of the kinks around MRV and uncertainty and permanence and things. So we came back around. So I guess you should appreciate that we didn't decide to abandon all hope and walk out of here after the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Fortunately, you didn't prepare anything, so it's good. Yeah, but you will have another opportunity to comment on that because you will be in the panel just after. Okay, so we keep going and we almost finish with Barbel Tiermeyer on the peatland.
Hi, thanks. I had the honor to moderate a small peatland session. And as peatland are, at least in Europe, largely drained, they're a huge source of CO2 emissions. And we agreed in our session that even if we manage to increase soil carbon in mineral soils, if we don't do anything about the drained peatlands, they will eat up all success. So we continued discussing, well, there are solutions proposed like paludiculture, which is a wet land use of peatland. How can we scale up this ideas, and talked about the progress in science, but also on regulatory barriers and also on practical issues. And I hope I will also on the panel to be able to talk more about peatlands.
Thank you very much. Then to finish, we have Catherine Kuka on the grassland and pasture. So please, come over here. The 3 last one, of course, they have very short time to prepare because the session just finished a minute ago.
So I'm not Catherine because she had to leave, but I'm Virginia Pravia from INEA, Uruguay. We had a great grassland sessions. We had 5 presentations, 3 from Europe, 1 from Australia, 1 from South America. There were several common points between these different presentations. One of the main reinforced aspects is that grasslands usually store more carbon than cropland, and in particular the fact of having perennial grasslands is one of the main issues, as the perennials, as we saw in different moments of this conference, have the ability to put carbon in the subsoil as well. So it's not only the topsoil, but also the subsoil. We have more carbon stored when we have grasslands. Of course, we have ruminants but it's not the cow, but the how do we do. That's one of the comments we had in the session. So there are many ways of working with the ruminants in the systems, and that can make the difference. Then the opportunities for soil carbon sequestration seem to be more on those areas that had been degraded before. But then one of the issues is, okay, we have these great systems that allow us to have
productivity and at the same time to respect the limits of some of the natural ecosystems that are out there in the temperate regions that are native grasslands as well. So the closest thing that we can do to our native systems is to include perennials with the crops. So it seems it's great to see that finally grasslands appear as a solution in terms of climate, as they can help us in some cases to restore the systems, the soil in the systems, and in some other cases we need to work more on the preservation of these grasslands because they are helping us to maintain the carbon in the soil. So,
thank you very much. So I would like to ask you to applaud all the moderator and also all the panelists. So it was a very rich and dense day. You can imagine we had 8 sub-sessions, breakout sessions, so it was really great. And I'm glad that you are still quite numerous to hear me up to the end. You are all expecting the cocktail, I know that. Right, so now we'll have a panel. And well, the idea of the panel is just to bring together the idea that we exchanged during those 1.5 days and try to bring those ideas and to know what we have to do to go forward and to go beyond all what we have said. So for that, of course, in the temperate climate region. So for that, we'll have 3 panelists. But first, before that, it's a little bit part of the panel without being part of the panel, because as you know, we are a few weeks before the COP30 in Belém, and we have the pleasure to welcome Eduardo Sampaio Marques, who will present us a little bit the idea behind this COP, of the Brazilian engagement at the COP presidency, and mainly concerning land and soil, which are our main preoccupation here. So, Mr. Sampaio Marques, so the floor will be yours.
Thank you. I'm going to begin the program in 10 minutes. I just want you to go beyond of that.
The mic.
Glad to be here. Hello, everybody. My name is Eduardo. I'm from Brazil. I have to mention that I am 30 years ago, I got a degree in soil fertility. 30 years ago. It was 3 levels of things, but now I'm a bureaucrat, I'm the agricultural attaché in the Brazilian embassy here in Berlin. I'm going to talk about RAIZ. RAIZ is a very, I'm not sure it's very happy, but it's a very happy acronym for the program. We are for this initiative, which is not a real initiative. We're going to launch here COP30. RAIZ is root in Portuguese, and the Uruguayans have already understood. RAIZ is a resilient agriculture investment for net zero land degradation. The Brazilian president launched this idea of multirão. Multirão is a very traditional way of the neighbors helping each other in the countryside of Brazil. If I need to build a very big task, I invite my neighbors and I give them money. I give them food, no money. I create a very happy environment, and they work for me free to help me in a very big task. And I'm willing to work for him in another occasion. This is multirão, a very old custom in Brazil. And so the president, our president, launched this name, multirão. RAIZ is part of this, is aligned with this multirão idea. RAIZ is focused in food and climate security, both. And we want to organize, I'm not sure if you are familiar with this COP30 and this COP for climate negotiations and dynamics. We have more than 400 initiatives, more than 100 compromises, but no compliance, no monitoring. We're trying to put things together. This is one of the, it's not really a new initiative, but an initiative gathering other initiatives to put things together, aiming land restoration. Okay, let's go here. Probably you know better than myself these figures. I wrote here with my handwriting, probably is one of the worst environmental problems we have today. Because when you talk about land, degraded land, is land that has been already deforested. So you don't have the forest and you're not producing. We have more or less 100 million hectares in Brazil with pastures that are very low productive. 100 million hectares, three Germanys. They are already deforested and they're producing very, very low productivity. And this is the aim of this program, to deal with these lands, grasslands, agricultural lands, transform it into productive lands, forestry, agroforestry, better grasslands, etc. I'll go here. Some new figures, I will go through it. Problems getting worse with climate change, more drought, more fires. In Brazil, you have lots of fires. It's getting a very big problem for us. So things are getting worse. And there is a very happy coincidence with the other UN, United Nations programs in desertification control and biodiversity. UN Convention to combat desertification, not control, combat desertification, biodiversity. One is aiming to recover 250 million hectares, the other to have 30% more ecosystem restored. So there is a kind of coincidence of targets. I'm trying to put it together. I have put something to read in the other. I wrote here. Read the other slide. Let's read what I put here. Sorry. It might be something very interesting, but read the other slide I put here. So let's read that one. Forget it. So, probably the difference of this initiative and the others is that we are aiming in agricultural land, restoring productive land, not restoring for environmental purpose only. It might become easier to attract private investments. Some other figures, you only read that and not go through it. But the potential to capture carbon is enormous. I think someone told about that, organic matter in the soils, using grasses. I'll go through it a bit more later. The degraded land has no carbon, you know that. And of course, this is not in 1 year, otherwise you don't have market for that. But the potential to produce much more food in this land, which is producing nothing. So, here. So, as I said, the program aims to, oh my God. The program aims to, 5 minutes, aims to recover land into productive agricultural land. That's why we say that probably it's easier to attract private finance. It's a lot of money, and the finance is there, but it's not coming for this objective. Many people talk about this in the COPs, but no money comes. So this RAIZ might be a catalyst to get projects, financiers, rulers, to make the proper public sector, to make the proper regulation, to make things happen. This is already happening. They're already mapping it's already mapped by the UN Convention on Desertification Combat. They have a lot of already, this initiative in FAO, FAST partnership, has already these maps. I'll show later the QR codes you'll get. There is already a website for this program with already some information on this. Where are the degraded lands? It's still waiting for the projects, and we have some Brazilian examples about this, how to finance. We already launched in Brazil something like that 2 years ago. It will be here. Then later you can go on, right? But I have more things here. I have to read the name of this program in Brazil. When we launched this program, now we are calling it a very fancy green way. But the original name it's interesting and very self-explanatory. It's a decree from 2023. National Program for the Conversion, this is the name of the program, National Program for the Conversion of Degraded Pastures into Sustainable Agriculture and Forestry Production. The name is a text, but it's very self-explanatory. And then we found this fancy Brazilian green way. As I told, we have 160, Brazil is very big, you know that. We have 160 million hectares of pastures, 160, okay, million hectares. Germany has 36 million hectares in total. So 160 is 4 Germanys. The estimatives are that 100 million hectares are low productive, are not producing well, 100 million. And some other surveys have identified that 440 million, they have good agricultural vacation, someone help me. Suitability, yes, and they are closer to infrastructure. Thank you. And they're closer to infrastructure. So this is the, I'll say, low-hanging fruits. So we are trying to help farmers to use these 40 million hectares. They are already using. Every year, Brazil, we have some deforestation still, unfortunately, but every year we increase our crop production with new area, something. Most of new area goes on bad pastures. We want to stimulate that. And how? We want to provide farmers with cheap financing, not grant money. We don't have grant money. Unfortunately, I still have 1 minute only. But we want to provide farmers with low interest rates financing under certain conditions. So the farmers will have a commitment to use low carbon practices, low carbon agricultural practice. This low carbon agriculture has a very happy acronym in Brazil. It's ABC, Agricultura de Baixo Carbono. Probably the Uruguayan have already heard about low carbon agricultural practices. So the farmers, they are having already this commitment. They have no deforestation at all, even if they can do it legally. So if to access this kind of financing, they will have to comply with certain conditions. We have already begun. This is, I try to put here, of course, 100% compliant with the law is the first item. 10 years of trying to reduce the emissions with low carbon agricultural practices, and land use commitment to zero deforestation in the farm. Okay, I already mentioned them. And we already, being in a developing country is more complicated than you can imagine. We have already sold this program in Japan and in China. And the Chinese and Japanese, the Japanese first, they are willing to invest, even with grant money. But it's not easy to get the money inside Brazil in a cheap way. Sometimes it's more expensive than spending our own. It's incredible. Don't ask me how to explain, but it's unexplainable. But it's not that small amounts. The Chinese or the Japanese, both Chinese and Japanese, not that small. More than 1 billion US, both, each. But we still cannot internalize that money. But we have our own. This is Brazilian Treasury has already issued some bonds, green bonds, and they are already lending some money to the farmers through the banking system, okay? And the most complicated, we say in Brazil, I think they have something here in Germany as well, the devil lives in the details. Devil lives in the details. We have to, the farmers has to be monitored. You got a very cheap money, but you have your commitment. So you have to do what you're supposed to do. And since you are in a soil science environment, the kind of, and I'm talking about tropical soil, so 2 minutes about tropical in a temperate environment. As I said, I'm an agronomist. In 1992, if I'm not mistaken, it was launched the first book in Brazil about soil fertility based only in knowledge generated in Brazil. When I was studying my undergraduation, my test books, they were translated from the US, or a lot of information coming from abroad. In 1992, so 30 years ago, something like that, the first book, really Brazilian book, so it's very recent. And we have learned a lot in the last 4 or 5 decades, about soil management. And much more important than here, much more important than in temperate zones, organic matter is fundamental for our soils. Fundamental for the cation, the exchange capacity, for the retention of humidity, and to control the temperature. You have straw on the surface, have lots of positive effects. And so this part of this, most of this agricultural, good agricultural practice has to do with organic matter. So we are stimulating no tillage in the crops. Even in the permanent crops like coffee or fruits, the no-tillage principles are used. So people try to increase the organic matter in between the rows. They have lots of straw in the rows. Double cropping. I'm not sure if all you know what double cropping means in Brazil. We plant the soybean in the spring, then harvest it in the beginning of the summer. You still have time to plant another crop in the same area, which is very intensive. But when I say intensive here in Germany, people get very worried. But this intensification is very desirable in our reality. We call sustainable intensification. Produce more organic matter, produce 2 crops, more cash, of course. Soybean and corn, bean and cotton, some combinations. But you have more straw, more organic matter to put in the soil. So it's good for the soil in the long term. So have double cropping, no tillage, have double cover crops. The most desirable cover crops are grasses. And when the farmer has some willingness or preparation, he can introduce cattle in this grass, so he has another sort of income. And the grass improve a lot the soil, especially in the phytosanitary conditions. And then some farmers introduce trees in the systems, so they have integration between livestock, forestry, and agriculture. It's a very sophisticated system. It's increasing in Brazil, these kinds of practices. They're not the core, but they're increasing a lot. It's the end. It's the end. So that's the kind of practice we are trying to encourage within recovering the degraded land. I think this is the last. I'm talking too much, yes. This is what I just told you, the borrow, you have commitments, but you have to monitor the commitment. The monitoring is the challenge now, and I think this is the end one, the last one. Sorry for my confusion. Again, the barcode, the QR codes. 14 minutes, sorry. Okay.
Do I have the... Yeah, it's okay, it's work now. Okay, the FAST partnership is coming from the Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yeah,
COP.
coming from, yes.
So, and it's managed by the FAO, and it will be one of the organizers of the World Things.
This thing was launched in FAO this week.
Yep.
The same presentation. They did that.
And we were lucky because the 4 per mil team, we were in Brazil, in Rio, in June, with a symposium with Embrapa, and we visited one of the farm where we have seen the system that you were talking about.
Where?
Where? I don't know the name exactly. It was not far from Rio, 4 hours of bus from Rio. So 8 hours to come back. But it was very, very interesting. It was worth doing it. Thank you very much.
Should I go back there?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And, you can sit, you can stay with us. Yeah, you can stay, you're right. Thank you very much for this presentation. And I will call the panelists on the stage. So Deborah, please come on the stage. Barbara, you already were there. And Francis Bucaille. Okay, so Francis, maybe you will have a little bit of time to present yourself, because you are the only one who were not here on stage before. Claudia, can we have mic, please?
Yes.
Okay, here. Okay, so the rule and the idea of this panel, as I told you before, is just to try to go a little bit further and have your point of view after 1.5 days of working, exchange, and session. Just what are the main idea we can use and take with us, and to go forward and quite go a little bit deeper on all those subjects. So I will try to guide you through some questions, but they are just guide. You can go away from it's okay, that's question and that's the game. So maybe I will start with you, Francis, because you didn't get the... So you are farmer and innovation director of AgriBooster, so maybe you will explain to us a little bit what it is. And while you will have the mic, as a farmer and agronomic advisor, where do you see the central lever to promote regenerative agriculture and sustainable soil management?
Yes, great question.
Thank you. It's not mine.
So, just to give some more information about me, I am farming in France, you know, in the center of France, in an area where there is, I think that there are all types of soils you can encounter in Western Europe, you know. It's very, very, very heterogeneous. So we have to be modest when we have such a farm, you know. What works in a place will not work in another place. So just to answer your question more directly, I think first that farmers still need training, guides. We absolutely need scientists also. But not only science, you know, which is 2 meters, the feet 2 meters above the ground. No, we need also practical, regional, local experimentations. I will tell you just a small story, recent story, you know. As you know, sustainable agriculture relies on 3 pillars. That is to say, limited cultivation, first, all year round coverage, green coverage, and secondly, diversity of species. And I met a guy in southern France, vineyard, you know, grapes. He is a grape grower, and he was advised to sow a winter barley in autumn. Okay, perfect. But it was forgotten that the rainfall is only 300 millimeters in this area. What happened? The grapes are dying now. So be cautious, you know. There is a word which says the hell is paved with good intentions. So it was the case, you know.
Reference to devil, hell. Come on, it's not because we are in the soil that we have to talk about devil, but it's okay. Keep going.
Yes. And I would add also a second point. You know, cover crops, sustainable agriculture has been felt by farmers like an obligation initially, like an obligation. So we have to change, to shift really the ideas. And I make many efforts to make also this way of growing or cultivating profitable. Because there is another word, you know, taxes are eternal, but subsidies can vanish suddenly. So personally, as a farmer, I don't want to rely only on grants, public financing, and so on. So I am working very hard for double cropping, even in our countries, you know, sowing about 2 weeks before the harvest, and I have some favorite species, which are buckwheat, for example, camelin. Camelin, you know, it's an oil seed grain, and it can be used even for jet fuels because it's of very high quality, millet, and so on. And we have very promising results. So I much believe in that because really it's a pity, you know, you grow something that's high and then you chop it, wow, without selling anything. So for me, double cropping, maybe fodder also for animals. It's the second way. And there is maybe a third way. It's to catch nitrogen, to fix nitrogen. That is to say, if you know that a legume will fix and then give back 50 kilos of nitrogen or 80 kilos, it means 80 euros at least that will be saved on the next cash crops. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Good experience of farmers, so we feel that you're not only an advisor but a farmer. Deborah, you, as a scientist working in NGO, nowadays I would say, focusing on conservation, where do you see the central lever to foster carbon sequestration in temperate climate? I know it's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to focus on this carbon markets thing that we've been talking so much about. We've been talking so much about the carbon markets, and I want to step us back for a second to think about where this is coming from. You know, the whole concept of putting economic value on ecosystem services is not that old. You know, the benefits that we get from nature towards people is a really revolutionary concept, and it's only about 40 years old. And this voluntary carbon market is the only global ecosystem services market that's going on. So when we get depressed about how we're still struggling with this and we're working it out, remember, it is very young, even as a concept globally. It's the only one that is already starting to work. And think about how the other markets in the world that we have, they're hundreds of years old, and they're so ingrained and we can't fix them. But I'm just saying, when you get depressed, remember like how young this whole enterprise is. And we really see this as a really promising, like the really big win is if we can get this right in the voluntary markets. The big win is going to be when governments can all move into the regulatory space. So getting this right now and working through the kinks is potentially a huge payoff in the future for payments for ecosystem services for our farmers, for our farming systems, for the planet. So one thing that we're doing is really leaning in on getting the science right. So we're working with a partnership of 40 scientists. The Shift CM, I think it's called the Shift CM Partnership, which is working as the scientific body to bring rigor and support to the ICVCM. So that's one way that we're trying to ensure that we actually make it to that big win. So I think it's even though in these kind of meetings we really grapple with all the details of how difficult everything is and how we're concerned about getting it right, I think we keep our eye on the prize going forward.
Okay, we are getting more and more complex in all of that, but it's important to have involving science, as you said, since the beginning, in all the various aspects of the question. So coming back to, we're talking about conservation when I present you, but just let's talk about peatland again, Barbel. So we cannot talk about soil as a central lever for climate change mitigation in temperate climate without talking about restoring peatland, because, well, we are in a situation of restoring, they were degraded. Where do you see the most promising development as well as the biggest challenges still to solve to make the progress in peatland protection and restoration?
Yes, thank you. I think the first important thing is knowledge and awareness. And I think I'm still a rare species as a peatland scientist here in the quadruple mill context, but there is a first session on peatland, so it's a sign that also in this community the awareness for peatlands is rising. So this is positive, I think. And you ask about restoration. One thing which is especially, well, for the whole temperate zone and also globally important is protection, because we still have quite a large area of more or less intact peatlands, which should not be forgotten. But if you talk about restoration, rewetting is a prerequisite. And unfortunately, the nature restoration law got it the wrong way round. So rewetting comes first, and then a healthy mire ecosystem might develop. But if we go this way, of course, farmers will lose their income if the peatlands had been farmed. And as peatlands are well, not equally distributed, but centered in some regions, such as northwestern Germany, where I work, this might be very controversial and also damaging to rural communities. So the idea of paludiculture had been developed, which is, some of you might not be familiar with the term, the wet use of peatlands. So you preserve the soil carbon and still use the biomass. For northern Germany, traditional use might be the thatched roof, as you might have seen and known. So the concept is there. And there has been amazing research showing the huge potential for climate mitigation and also the positive impacts on biodiversity. So the idea is here, and you might ask why is it not going faster and what are the barriers for this? One point is that the common agricultural policy is not yet very supportive, and in some points also really hindering progress. Funding programs are needed, and also the planning and approval procedures. I'm aware, especially of the situation in Germany, are very, very complex, because there's no central responsibility for peatland restoration, but responsibilities are scattered, and so different authorities might have different opinions, and things are progressing very slowly. So long-term perspectives also for farmers, they don't think in 5 years or 3 years, but in generations. So long-term strategies and funding is needed, as well as the capacities from universities to research to those who drive in the end the digger to block dams is needed.
Thank you very much. It's true that this subject is not really spread among the population, and there is a kind of antagonism between protection, conservation of the peatland, and proper use for production, and which is a little bit difficult to understand. And as you said, we are in between various administration. The law might be different from one to another. It's a subject that we had also talked about in the meeting we had in Helsinki 2 years ago. We had the North Europe 4 per mil regional meeting, and we had a specific session on the peatland and peatland restoration. And we know that for the north part of Europe, this is very, very important. So we will, anyway, we keep that subject in the 4 per mil, and we will continue to keep it with us. Maybe I will come back to you, Eduardo. Well, you explained to us a little bit what are the intention about the Brazilian government for the COP, but more generally, where do you see as where do we as an international community need to strengthen our collaboration effort to foster action on soil health? We already talked a lot yesterday afternoon about that, but we would like to have your opinion as a Brazilian. You have a lot of challenge ahead coming in the coming weeks.
It's a very challenging question. Very challenging question. I don't know. I see.
It's not me again.
I have been dealing with this climate thing very recently. I was quite impressed. I went to Bonn. Many people talking. Lots of initiatives. Lots. Incredible. Everybody has its own initiative. 400. I think we have to implement things, put things in practice. Everything that Mr. Dr. Francis Bukele told, that's what we are fostering. Photosynthesis all year round, recover soils, add organic matter, no tillage, etc., etc. Probably we know already the answers, but we have to do it. I'm a market-friendly oriented guy. I think, of course, we have this proper. The peats cannot be in this package, the peatlands, because we have to to leave them. So that's not market. Somebody has to pay for the farmer to keep his peatland there. But I think we have to look after market solutions, because someone told Dr. Bukai, the subsidies come and go. They can vanish. I think he used that expression. But I think the market is willing to pay. Willing to spend some money in recovering land and to have a long-term return, but wait for that return because it will come eventually. I think we have to implement and look for market-oriented solutions. Rely less on public funding. Every day we have less public funding for everything.
Yeah,
the societies are getting old. We are getting old. I'm sorry. We are getting old. We are going to retire. And now we need to have our retirements. And now we need to spend in weapons. But we have to spend, yes, we do. Weapons are very expensive. So I think we have to move in that direction. Find market-oriented ways to finance what we need. And we need to implement our ideas. We have already too much ideas. I think we know already what to do, but we have to do eventually.
Okay, so for you, market will help us to work on soil health and implement the good practices on soil health.
Yes.
Well, I hope that it will happen, because at the moment it's not really the case. But
no.
So we have to use also that lever. Coming back to you, Francis. You are farmers, we already said, but you're also a biologist. So what do you feel at the central level, especially with regard to soil biology in our perspective of soil health?
Yes. Many people, many farmers think that cover crops and no-till are a miracle. You do that, and that's all. And sometimes they forget something, you know. The soil microbiology needs absolutely some trace elements, for example, to work, to do the job. We have not to forget that the tools of microbiology are enzymes, and 75% of enzymes are metalloenzymes. So I meet so many times people who think that they are self-sufficient, they don't need anything, and auto-fertility will build up spontaneously. No, if you have no molybdenum, no nitrogenase, you will not fix nitrogen, and so on and so on. So it's the first point. The second point, we have to consider the soil, I would say, as a cow. That is to say, personally, I prepare a diet, you know. What do I mean through diet? That is to say, there is a stoichiometry, you know, that is to say, the ratio between C, N, P, S, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And if you give back some, I would say, poor crop residues, straw, for example, we have high amounts of carbon, but not enough of phosphorus and sulfur. And then what do the microbes? They breath out carbon up to the point that the ratio of the humus is reached. That is to say, 100 carbon, 10 nitrogen, 1 phosphorus, and 1 sulfur. So we have absolutely to combine sometimes some cover crops with a straw, or even some phosphorus and sulfur with the straw. And then you can double the carbon use efficiency. You can double the carbon stored. It's very, very important. And what I want to add, you have some seconds. Yeah. It's that synchronization is important. That is to say, if you put a straw in July, and then the cover crops or a fertilizer 3 months afterwards, it doesn't work. It's like a cow, you know. Monday straw, Tuesday silage, Wednesday soybean, Friday the minerals. No, the cow will die. And it's exactly the same for soil. So we have absolutely not to forget that. Last point, which is very important. The fungi and bacteria ratio really is very, very important also. Why? Because the fungal population is twice as efficient as bacteria to store carbon. They don't spend much energy on so on. The proof. The fungi are able to decay wood. And what is the CN ratio of wood? More than 1,000. It's not 100. So we have to protect them. How to protect them? Not too much nitrogen. It was told already today, not because their competitiveness is broken otherwise. And secondly, we have absolutely to decrease the fungicides, because I have not to explain. The fungicides kill the fungi.
Good.
It's
good start. I understand that.
Okay. Okay. So if we want to be efficient to sequester carbon, we have to protect the fungal population, and we have absolutely to review our way of protecting our crops. No fungicides, no tree protection, and there are solutions.
And I like also to eat fungus, so I agree with you. Okay, so Deborah, maybe a last question for you. We are talking about carbon credit a lot before. What role do you feel selling carbon credit can play to foster the transition to regenerative agriculture and to incentivize soil carbon sequestration? Small question.
Thank you. The market question again. Yeah, so, you know, the thing is with actually we have been saying this for 40 years too. What we want from our farming systems is a lot more than just food. We want food, but we also want, you know, clean water and climate mitigation and biodiversity protection, all the things that we want from how we manage our land. And it's all tied into this, tied into how we manage our farmlands, basically farmland and grazing land. And so I think I come back to this concept of the only thing that's really generated this much energy around the world is the carbon markets. So to me, it's actually an important lever for us to get all of the things that we want, because it's the one thing that's really functioning out there beyond, you know, government level subsidies and things like that, which, as you say, how reliable is that? But so for me, using these markets that we have available now and improving them and expanding the scope of it is the way that we can help turn the farming, our agricultural system writ large, into the solution for many of our environmental problems. And that's what really I think the farmers want to be participating in, is being the solution to all of these problems. So I think it's a core sort of way forward. And if we don't include farming systems in these markets and in these big solution spaces that are agreed globally, which right now it's only around climate that's agreed globally, if we don't include, that means we're leaving out half of the land area in the world from our solution space, which is insane. Yeah. So I see it from both sides. It's crazy to leave it out, and it's also beneficial for us all to leave in, and these markets do really provide one. I mean, if some other great, wonderful lever comes up, that would be good, but for the moment, this is the one that's on offer.
So, Bärbel, I will give you the last word, because I want to finish this session on the peatland. So, give us a last thought about what really needs to be done, and to convince all the people who are not yet convinced that we have to protect peatland and the way to work with them.
Well, that's difficult. It's also a question of scale in Germany, in the temperate zone globally. But maybe, first of all, peatlands are fascinating. and they are often seen as some dark, murky landscapes where you can think in everything is smelly and the bog monster waits. So maybe you find some bog bodies as well. So I think perception is an important thing, and education. Go to the peatlands which are still intact and see that you won't think in usually, and that there are really fascinating ecosystems and that you can love them. I mean, this doesn't pay farmers who farm there, it doesn't give them an earning, but it's important from a larger perspective. I think what is also important to integrate peatland questions within mineral soil questions, like for the carbon market, try, I mean, there are solutions out there. I can't bring it to one point because the barriers are so different on the different political levels and so on, but try to integrate it into as many policies as possible. I think this would be also an important thing, not to keep them as a separate thing besides the normal soils.
Thank you very much. So it's we will transmit the message to the CAP to include the peatland in the CAP because it's quite important. Huh? Yes, you will. Thank you. I was just ready to ask you, Manuel. That's okay. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving some light on some questions that we already have discussed. So please have a good applause to all our panelists.
Thank you for inviting me, Paul. Thank you.
Pleasure. Right. So now is the last part before the cocktail. So just try to pave the way too, just to give some good repair. Yeah. No, it will be a little bit more than one sentence. Sorry. So, first of all, this is my personal thanks to all of you, because once again, we organize this kind of conference. We consider that almost all subjects have been already cleared, that we know everything, and then, surprise, we learn a lot. And fortunately, after the COVID, we find a way to gather again in person, because we just all want to get rid of being alone behind a screen, looking at the other, trying to interfere, try to find the right button to put your hand there in the screen, telling that you approve, or you smile, or you're happy, or you poop. Well, anyway, we need to meet each other, and that's the best way to exchange. And the most important part of those conferences are the coffee break and the lunch, definitely. This is my private comment. Of course, the rest are more important. So I would like to submit to you some key messages. It's not really key messages, it's just something that I heard, and I would like to share with you. Of course, it's not exhaustive, because it's not one sentence, it's almost two sentences, but it's very important in my mind to keep that. During those 2 days, I heard that global awareness on soil organic carbon seems to grow again in importance, and it's not only for soil health and soil carbon sequestration. And really, we feel that the 4 per Mil initiative and all its partners are not completely stranger to the situation that we experience in the world and all this awareness going up. But the problem is that the soil carbon is decreasing globally, while it should increase with the awareness. And we really need, and I'm not the first one to say that, but I think we will have to do, we need to act, and we act now. not tomorrow. Tomorrow will be too late. And there are people who show the cost of inaction, which is quite very, I have this figure of 12 billion. I think it was only for a specific area in the world, not for the world. $12 billion or euro, whatever it is, it's quite a lot of amount. The second thing is that we are increasing the knowledge of the living soil functioning, thanks to science, and we have not to forget the biology of the soil. Francis just told us that, but it was said before, and this is very important. But as we know more, we need more research, and we learned that also. And we need also to reinforce, strengthen the education on soil organic carbon. Not only the public awareness, it starts on education, and I'm talking about the one for the children in the school. Start respecting the soil you are stepping on. This is not dust, this is life. Could be important. The Buddhists maybe understand that a little bit more earlier, but we have to spread it. We did quite a lot of progress on MRV instrument and tools. We had example of what we can do about soil sampling and analysis, improving modelization, sensor, remote sensing, etc. Well, there is a really need for a combination and harmonization of all those tools and a better collaboration between the private sector and the public sector. Because public research is going on one way, while at the same time, private sector are really going fast. And they need to meet at once, because one will define and will help defining the rules and the law, and the other one will have to use and respect the law and the rules. So they need to discuss and collaborate. I've heard a lot about uncertainty, about soil carbon sequestration. And that's something that strikes me for 10 years that I am working with the 4 per mil initiative. I understand people that said it's uncertain to store carbon in the soil, but come on, be honest. Is it certain to store carbon in the forest? Have you seen all the fire we had these last years? Where is the certitude? Just have a matches or even a cigarette, and then your forest is gone. No certitude. So please, do not use this uncertitude to say we cannot store carbon in the soil. Come on, be honest. It's almost certain as a forest. But it's easy to see a forest growing. Than the soil, you will not see anything. We are working a lot also on national and regional policy to take in consideration soil carbon, to foster soil carbon sequestration and accurate practices. We heard a lot about that, and thank you to all. It could be national, it could be supranational, as the European Commission is doing for the European Union, and we are thanks to that. We heard a lot about the diversity of solutions in agriculture. We're talking about agroecology, regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, conservation agriculture, organic agriculture, biochar use, holistic grazing system. Well, there is no one recipe. We have a 1,000 page cookbook in our hand, and we need to find the right recipe for the right place. This is the magic of that. There is a bunch of solutions, and we need to understand that. I've heard about agroforestry. I remember I made my PhD on agroforestry about 35 years ago. When I did that, all the people in the Ministry of Agriculture in France looked at me and said, "This guy is crazy. What are you talking? Mixing forestry and agriculture? No future." Okay, it's okay, no future. But everybody is talking about agroforestry today. So just to make a little bit of advertisement, the 4 per mil published a book which is called Farmers Have the Earth in Their Hand. So if you don't know this book, it's a very small one, 120 pages. And we try to explain what could be the interpretation of agroecology and how the agroecology is interacting with all those kind of agriculture. That they have a lot of solution and a lot of possibility all around the world. Well, all the money of the book, when you purchase it, is going to the 4 per Million initiative. That's why I insist it's not going in my pocket. So please help us. Cropland, grassland, orchards, question of relation between crops, animal, and trees, and the question of regenerative agriculture definition was asked. And there is not only solution in cropland, there are solutions in cropland, in orchards, in grassland. Grassland are very important. We heard that again today, and this come back the question of the livestock, the animal, how the animal are incorporated in all of that. I'm already too long. Conservation of natural carbon sinks such as peatland was also a very important point, and I wanted to stress that one. All of that cannot be possible without the farmers. The farmers are at the center of the game, and they need to be supported, not harassed, not only by scientific, by policymakers, by NGOs, by business. They need to be supported. They are the ones who will save the humanity on the planet. We heard about living labs. That's very interesting. Lighthouse, living labs. There are notions that bring together science and civil society and farmers mainly, and that's something that are really promising. How to build the knowledge of tomorrow with the traditional knowledge and the scientific knowledge. Combine private and public money to finance practices in favor of soil carbon was said again, and we need to strengthen this. We heard about that there could be some method of temporary credits, maybe that can help short-lived emission. We're talking about CDR, about rock weathering, biochar also sometimes. So all those methods can help us to win some time on the clock, which is running for the global warming. And I think this is important to use all the tools. Well, this conference is an important moment in the life of the initiative because, as we always do, it gathers all categories of stakeholders around common interest subjects. Here, that was the temperate climate countries, and we will continue to do that on a regional basis or other thematic. We need more meetings on this kind to progress in a common understanding and common roadmap on what and how we have to act. How can we keep the windows of opportunity open for soil health and carbon sequestration in soil for climate change mitigation and adaptation, food security and ecosystem resilience? For one, there is a need to shift the focus from advocacy to action on the ground and to scaling up. At a time when this windows of opportunity seems to be narrowing globally as other issue appears more pressing at a first glance, as it was said yesterday by Stefan. According to a recent OECD study, the fund available for agriculture and the AFOLU sector in the context of climate change financing are still insufficient. Barely a little more than 1 to 2% of this fund reach this sector, particularly the smallholder farmers. We need to make sure that this situation will change. And it was said by one of the last speaker, no money comes. Yes, no money is coming to the farmers. And how can we can expect them to do something on soil carbon sequestration for all of us if we cannot help them to get some of this money. In this environment, it is important to create an enabling environment for farmers to be able to foster soil health and soil carbon sequestration, not only for our common future, but above all, for their own future as a farmer. We collectively need to develop concrete projects in different regions of the world on various themes, such as supporting the place of soil at the core of the agricultural policy, developing agroecological practices, measuring soil carbon evolution, promoting the use of turnkey tool for soil carbon monitoring to increase the mobilization of dedicated funding. Conference, summit, meeting on soil carbon farming and carbon market are multiplying, but participants increasingly consider that it is necessary not to focus only on carbon, It was really said those days. But also on the other co-benefit of soil carbon, water retention, increased biodiversity, resistance to erosion, etc. Rules for harmonizing the measurement, reporting and verification MRV of stock carbon stock and environmental services related to carbon sequestration, therefore, need to be refined and strengthened to guarantee fair payment, particularly to the producers. I tried to get the idea, but I put some of mine also. This is the conclusion. As an interdisciplinary approach is required to address soil carbon, we, and particularly the initiative and its partners, will work together the global scientific community on this thematic and all linked topics. We also have to support the sustainable transition of agriculture through science-based agroecology collaboration and dialogues, particularly for this scaling up, and we have to continue promoting soil health and carbon sequestration in soil with the producer as a central lever and improved access to reliable knowledge and information to all group of actors. The world is moving from only talking about carbon sequestration to including biodiversity in the soil, but also water resilience and ultimately all leading in farmers' resilience. In that context, and it was said strongly, creating closer connection and synergies between the three Rio Convention and FAO will be an important task that we have to conduct, and the initiative will play its part. So, before definitely closing this conference, it is my duty to thank all of those who helped to make this event possible and a reality. First of all, I would like to thank BMLEH, it's getting longer now, particularly Dorothea and Luisa and Wolfgang, even though it's a continuation, and Minister Rainer, of course, for all their support and having made this moment possible. Of course, all the speakers, some of them travel from far away, and we thank them very much. We're going to compensate in carbon for that. And also the posters presenter that you had the opportunity to see there during the coffee break, and the exhibition next door also, the exhibitor about biochar and some other nice products. Of course, the moderator, who did a great job, because without you, no possible discussion. And there will be the one for tomorrow for the excursion, the one who prepared the excursion, and of course, the interpreter. So this is also the time to thank all the people behind the scene, the technician and all the people that are not visible in first hand, even though sometimes you can see them on the stage, but it's not supposed to be the case. And I would like to thank also all the team from the German Humus program that make this conference possible, together with the 4 per Million initiative, with the team in Bonn, our team in Bonn, and the BLE conference management. That's also very important, because only 1.5 days in this building, but it's a lot of hours of preparation, and you all know that. Of course, the technicians that are dealing with us, and the local technician, the team of is it COM27? That's what it's written? What did you write? I cannot read it, sorry. No, yeah. This is the team from the conference center. Sorry, it's handwritten. I'm not used to that. Okay, so I think I finished my duty. Once again, I warmly thank you all for coming, for participating, whatever your rule was, and simple participant or. So, for those who will still be there tomorrow, don't forget that we have excursion. So, at the back of your bed, you're supposed to have a collar, and this collar will lead you to the right excursion. So, the gold will be the Bioff class. That's right. Whoa, I can read it. The green will be the Hout and Bosel. And the red will be the agrogenose. Well, it's too complicated for me. It's just a German word, so it means it's about that things. But anyway, you have 3, don't forget, gold, green, red. And that's where we will go. That's COM27, that's what I said. That's a conference here. That's where we are, and then that's where we will go. I should have read that. Agrargenossenschaft. Easy. Okay, so I hope that it's not too late. We have the cocktail now, the farewell cocktail. And tomorrow morning, start at 8:30. The meeting point is in front of the conference center. So you have all the information there. We will return to the conference center via the central station of Berlin. So it means that the one who want to start from the central station in Berlin, just take your suitcase with you tomorrow in the bus. There will be room for that. And then you can start directly from the central station tomorrow afternoon. And we're supposed to come back in Berlin around 2 to 3 o'clock. There will be the lung packages, and as I just said, the luggage can be stored in the bus. Thank you very much to all, and thank you for bearing my Frenchly English. I invite you to go there.
So just a few last words. You already thanked everybody, but you forgot one person.
Goodness.
Yeah, and that's yourself. So that's on behalf of me, because as we already said before, so today is your last conference as an executive director from 4 And so I would like to thank you again. I already said the laudatio yesterday evening, so I won't repeat that, but maybe the most important sentence yesterday I said was, so 10 years ago, soil still hasn't been on the agenda. There was not a big awareness about soil, and today this is changed, as we all know, and this is also thanks to your work and your dedication for 4 and we are very grateful for this, and so I wish you the very best for the journeys to come.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I should confess that this is the first time ever in my whole life that a woman offers flowers to me. So there is a beginning.
It's always
Thank you very much. Okay, so please go for the cocktail. Thank you to all.